Okay, now let's see how we can render this list of rooms using data received from Socket.io. By now, you know that we are storing details of rooms in app.locals.chatrooms. Here, we've already brought that in using the allRooms variable. So first, for the purposes of demo, I'll manually create two chat rooms by pushing an object into this array that describes the structure of a room. This should also help you recall how we store data for every chat room that users create. The room key defines the name or topic for a given chat room, while the room ID is a randomly generated unique key that is used as a URL parameter to load up a particular room's page. At the end, we have a users array that will store objects describing every user's socket, ID, name, and profile pic URL. Now, before we push this data using Socket.io, we'll first go into the rooms.ejs file and I'll create a function called renderChatRooms that accepts an array using an argument called chatrooms, and it should return the DOM structure representing the list items and hyperlinks that define the list that we see on the page. So inside this function, we'll first create a variable to hold the jQuery selected to the unordered list element called RoomsListUL, inside of which I need to render my list of chat rooms. Now, since we'll be passing in an array of chat rooms into this function, we'll have to loop over it and compile a DOM structure before injecting it into the page. So I'll first create a variable called liststr and we'll set it to a blank string. Then, using a for off loop, we'll iterate over the chat rooms array, and at every iteration we'll get access to the individual elements using the cat variable. The for off loop is very convenient when you have to iterate over iterables like arrays. Okay, next we'll access the liststr variable and using a plus equal to operator to concatenate in every individual list entity, we'll use the ES6 template literal notation to describe every list item's DOM structure like so. In the wrapping anchor tag, we'll type in /chat/ the value of the room ID. And in the list item tag, we'll output the room key, which refers to the name of the chat room. The template literal notation is extremely well suited for creating templates without the need for breaking them down into JavaScript strings as we used to do in ES5. The cat variable in this case refers to individual elements from the array as the for off loop iterates, and since each entity is an object describing the room, we access the individual keys using the dot notation. I'm sure this explains for itself. Once the liststr variable contains the HTML structure for all rooms, we will access the RoomsListDiv variable which points to the unordered list, and we'll first clear out its contents using the jQuery HTML method where we'll set the contents to a blank string. And then we'll append the contents of the liststr variable like so. This will render the list for us. We still have to get the data that represents this list. When this page is loaded by the user for the first time, we have to ask the server to send us the chat rooms list. The way we will do that is by first using socket.emit to dispatch an event called getChatRooms. The emit method is used to send data to the other end. Do note that we are not sending any data along with this event. So in a way, this is more of a trigger, a signal to the server to send back data. Back in our socket module, we have to listen in to the get chat rooms event. We'll do that by accessing the socket instance like so and attaching an on method which has to listen for the get chat rooms event. The callback function will fire up as and when this event is heard. You can implement several events and event listeners using this syntax, and they're all asynchronous and do not interfere with each other. So once the get chat rooms is heard, we will use socket.emit just like we did in the rooms.egs file to dispatch another event called chatroomsList, which also carries along a stringified version of the allRooms variable, which essentially means the contents of the app.locals.chatrooms array. So let's go back in the rooms.egs file and we'll receive this event here by using socket.on, where we listen to the chatroomsList event. And as a result, the callback receives the stringified array, which I'll receive using the chatrooms variable, and inside the callback, we'll simply invoke the render chatrooms function, which we wrote earlier, passing in a past version of the chatrooms variable, which is what will contain the stringified array as received from the server. So let's go back in our browser and refresh the page. And since the app had restarted and the session had expired, we will be redirected to the login screen. Now let's sign in. And you can see our two demo chat rooms, Good Food and Cloud Computing, show up here. On inspecting these two list items, you can see that their anchor tags contain pointers to /chat/ the ID of the room. For now, I had manually set this as 0001 and 0002, but we'll be dynamically generating these. So let's now create chat rooms using the input field and the create button.